Welcome to Fostering Bridges, a podcast dedicated to uplifting, supporting, and empowering foster, adoptive, and kinship parents.
Well, today we have a special guest, Frank Matz, who's been a foster parent for quite some time and had quite a variety of roles in the child welfare world. Welcome, Frank. Thank you for being on.
Hey, man, it's a great pleasure to be with you, Dwayne.
Well, I appreciate it, and it's been a while since I've seen you, so it's nice to actually get a chance to visit with you as well. But if you will, since we're focusing on fostering fatherhood here, if you will, tell me about you and your family, and really what makes up kind of history there, and why do you foster?
Yeah, so I've been married for almost 25 years. We have 6 kids. 5 of them are adults, and they're our biological kids, and we have 1 kid that we are legal guardians for, and she's 3. We've had her since she's been 2 days old. And so we've taken in over 40 kids and young adults in the last 10 years. So we're very active.
Wow.
Yeah, and my oldest daughter now is a foster parent as well.
Wow, so it runs in the family. First, I had no idea you'd been married 25 years, because I'm coming up on, or just hit 18, and I didn't think you were that much older than me. You must have started when you're like 12 or something.
I got married at 17.
Did you really?
Yeah, and then had kid number 5 by the time I was 22.
All right, so that was a quick start. And 40 kids. So how many do you have in the house right now? Like, I think you might have just said, but remind me, how many in your house currently?
Actually, living in my house right now, I have 3 kids.
3 kids. And is there kind of a rolling average of how many children you normally are parenting in the household?
Well, so 2 of my adult kids live at home right now. And then I just have the 3-year-old as the only active parenting role right now. But at one time we had 8 to 9 teenagers in the house. So we did a lot of teenagers when we did foster care, or actively doing foster care.
That's great. And so tell me about your family dynamics. Like, who kind of has what role in the household? Is there one of you that is more of a disciplinary, or one who goes off to work, or one who makes breakfast and dinner and, all that jazz? And what's your family dynamic like? Yeah,
so it's kind of everybody in on it. My wife and I both work full-time jobs. I actually work outside of the home. She works at her home office. And so she's more available for that, taking our kid to preschool and picking her up. She does the dinners. We both actively work on nurturing and discipline together, so we're consistent. But when we've had teenagers in the home, I usually had the difficult conversations with the kids. And I'm the one that usually spent a lot of time helping them develop, help set their own boundaries. So my wife helped a lot with the teenagers, but I did probably the heavy lifting of it.
Can you give me an example of that? The heavy lifting, or what is it like having a teenager that you're trying to teach about boundaries?
Yeah, so a lot of times they're coming in there and they don't have any rules. They kind of been able to do their own thing. And so one of the things that we set up is we want to focus on bonding, but we also want to set boundaries to keep them safe. So whether it's cell phone use, whether it's going out with friends, some of the kids we've had, they can do whatever they want outside of our home. So when they come here, now there's a bedtime. Now there's a time that they have to be home at night. They have to check in before they go everywhere. And so we try to help set boundaries that make them safe, but actually help them feel like they're in control of their life still. Because one of the things we didn't want them to do is feel like they had lost all control of their life.
Right. Have you had a lot of pushback on that? I mean, if they come in, they're not used to rules, and all of a sudden you're, applying rules and then trying to teach them how healthy boundaries can be, that I imagine that's not always a warm reception at first.
Right. No, so for the most part, everyone's pretty cool with it because we're pretty open. We've actually had 2 people that would sneak around and lie the whole time. And it was like things they didn't need to lie about. Like, I don't care if you go to the pizza parlor after school. You just got to let me know so we know where you're at. I don't care that you're going to go hang out at the coffee shop at Dutch Bros after school and then walk downtown shopping. That's not a big deal. But when you say you're going to be at school studying and I see you downtown.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we just work a lot with that with the kids. Like, hey, we just want communication. Like, we're not going to you're not going to get in trouble. We're not going to take away anything. We just want communication so we know you're safe. So one of the things we teach the kids, and we work with them, is we want to bond with you and we want to have a relationship. We're also going to set boundaries and monitor them. And it's not because we want to be these super controlling people. We just want to make sure that you're safe and you're cared for. And usually at the beginning, they push back. But it's kind of neat toward the end when they go home or go to their next assignment. One of the things they say they appreciate was the communication and the fact that we cared enough about them to keep up with them.
That's awesome. So I'm thinking of your teams. What's the longest you've had someone in the household?
We had a teenager for 3 years.
Okay.
And then right now we've had our 3-year-old for 3 years, and she's been 2 days old. Okay.
So you guys have been foster parents for a long, long time. And why do you do what you do? What made you decide to be foster parents? And I'm curious, which one of you initiated it?
It was actually me. We had been taking in kids for a few years, and then so unofficially foster parents. So we took in kids to help people out. We took in a whole family to help them out so their parents got on their feet. And then I was administrator of a school, and one of my students was homeless couch surfing. And when I was talking to his parents and sibling, they mentioned, "Hey, would you have know a place for him to go?" So we ended up getting emergency certified so that he can stay with us. And so that's kind of what started the whole thing.
Wow. And that was how long ago?
Maybe 10 years ago.
Okay. And so it's been certified since, but that was what launched the certification?
Yeah. It was a fun process and being able to. So it's pretty interesting. My wife and I, we've done the foster parent things. We got a kid now, but we also support foster families in a lot of different ways. And then on top of it, so my wife runs a program called Every Child, Josephine County. And so we provide, actually, you should know that program. You started it here.
I do know all about that program, but somebody listening might not know.
Yeah. So we provide supplies and resources to families that are going to become foster parents. So whether it's a bed, a dresser, clothes, a car seat, whatever you can think of. And then we also try to put together a circle of support for that family as well, so that they have the resources and the help they need to be successful in fostering these kids. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we do that. And then my wife and I also teach parenting education classes free to the community. And about half of our students are parents who have their kids in foster care. And so we get to work with all along, the kids we're working with, the foster parents we're working with, and the parents who have lost their kid for a season.
That's fantastic. What's that program called?
It's called At the Well, Rogue Valley.
At the Well, Rogue Valley. Is that a nationwide, or is that Oregon and Grants Pass specific? Or how does somebody find it?
Yeah, so we atthewellroguevalley.com is our website, or .org. We actually have we have live classes in Jackson and Josephine County in Oregon, but we are starting to do online classes due to COVID, and we have people attending all over the nation to our online classes. And so there's like 50 students in there from New York and Massachusetts and Florida and Wisconsin and Kansas, as well as all the West Coast states. It's pretty awesome.
That's awesome. And I had kind of forgotten about that work. So it's, like I said, it's been a little while since we've chatted. So on the parenting, do you guys have any sort of specific parenting philosophy when it comes to fostering? So you said that you basically were just bringing in kids, and you guys have had a lot of focus on teenagers, but currently you have a little one. So have you guys been specific on, short-term only, or respite, or long-term, or, hey, whatever the need is? Kind of what's your philosophy?
We pretty much have gone wherever the need is at. And usually the need is in teenagers. And so that's kind of where we put a lot of our focus in, working with teenagers, and not only to help them be successful in life, but also try to help their parents as well, because we want them to have a relationship with their parents if all possible.
Right.
So not really a specific thing we've done. The baby we have now, I was working with a family who were living down by a creek in a tent, and they had been addicted to substances, and so they already had 2 sons in foster care when we came alongside to help them. And so we stepped in to help the family, and they're doing great. They got their boys back. He's had a job for a couple of years and got promoted several times. They live around the corner from us, but they've decided to let their daughter stay with us. So,
wow, that's those are interesting stories. I love the stories where the foster parents create that bond with the biological parents, and so it's not a competition, but rather a teamwork. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well,
so,
one of the things we find
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that we found is the people that are working with foster care now, and their kids are going into foster care, a lot of times they too are in foster care or came from really bad backgrounds. And so one of the things we want to do is help them along the way, like be better parents than their parents were, and then be able to help their kids be a better parent when they get to that place in life. And so a lot of the things we do is try to pour into them. Yeah.
And breaking that generational bondage and heartache.
Yes.
You know, there's in my state rep days, I had one radio DJ that every time I would mention foster care, he always brought up the dangers of false allegations. And, you know, and especially with teenagers, you know, his thing was that anytime a teen, you know, was told no, they might just go out and try to ruin your life by, you know, having some sort of allegation. Are there things that you as a couple kind of do just to protect you guys from, you know, anyone who would say things that aren't accurate or aren't true or would try to cast you in a light that isn't appropriate?
Well, I mean, that's a huge fear of ours every time we do something like this with kids. We really don't do anything different other than we pray a lot. We, you know, I would say there's a saying that says rules without relationships equals rebellion. You've probably even preached on that before. And so what we try to do is we always focus on the relationship first before we put any rules in place. And we just keep hitting that relationship over and over again. And so they actually come to very much appreciate Teresa, myself, and then our other people that we bring in as far as circle support, because we're always pushing the relationship piece and bonding with them. So we haven't had any issues. We don't do anything different. We did have to set a limit. One of the girls that we had, she was a teenager, and I'm a very loving person. I like to hug my kids, and my kids, I like to sit next to me on the couch and put their heads on my shoulder and that kind of stuff. We had a foster girl who was a teenager, and she wanted that same affection. And she always wanted to be like next to me with the other kids. And so we had to like really watch for it and make sure that like we were above board on everything we did so it didn't look weird. And so I wouldn't let her lay on me like my kids did, but she could totally sit next to me. And that kind of stuff. And we had active conversations. We had active conversations with her on what that would look like.
Right. And that's what I was just about to say is how important it is to teach these teenagers appropriate affection as well. And what it's like to, you know, to have a dad who's honoring God and honoring them and who's not dangerous. And so, again, I really appreciate you guys doing that work. So speaking of being a dad, and you already mentioned kind of some of the disciplinary and some of the roles that you've taken, but are there any dad-specific duties that come to mind for you? If you were to talk to a foster dad out there, where you would say, you know what, this is a role you can't miss this part.
I would say taking the lead on the kids are not going to initiate things a lot of times. So as the dad, you're going to have to initiate things. You're going to have to initiate, you know, a regular date with them. You're going to have to initiate conversations. And asking a kid, hey, how was your day? And waiting for them to engage, oftentimes they're going to be fine. But if you start sharing a little bit about your day and giving them space to share about theirs, then kind of things open up. And when they are sharing things, instead of lecturing them and judging them, just listening to what's going on in their day. And they tend to find that you're a safe place to talk to. So that, I mean, that's kind of both parents, but for the dad, man, I try to lead with my family. And my wife's amazing, but when we get to do things, it's usually my ideas that we do. I'm usually the one that's like, hey, we should do this. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, let's have a meeting, a family planning time, and let's put some ideas on the board that we can go do. Right? Because if you're passive, things just don't get done.
Right. What sort of effect has fostering children had on your marriage?
The emotional and the physical stress of having, guests in your home. That's hard. And dealing with, biological parents who are trying to get their life together that may be struggling. And then you're dealing with, DHS in their system and how they're doing things, and maybe they're not communicating with you clearly. And those all put huge stresses on you, especially when they say, hey, at 2 o'clock, we're going to show up and we have a meeting. And it's never been announced before. You haven't planned for it. Matter of fact, you're not even in town that day because you're in a meeting. So those are all stressful things.
Now, do you have any sort of specific marriage protection things that you have in place? Our household, we are very protective of our date night. And depending on the season of life and what's going on, how regular that is can change. But do the two of you have anything where it's like, this is mom and dad's time and there's no messing with it?
Yeah, we don't have a set time, but we do make dates a lot, whether it's running to grab breakfast together or maybe a quick lunch together, since we both, are flexible in our schedule. We try to plan a date night every other week where two of us just go out and do something together. And then we try to get away to a overnight somewhere at least once a quarter. Usually it's on the coast.
Great. I like that idea. I need to find a way to get away. Now, all right. What would you say some of the biggest joys or rewards of being a foster parent are?
Giving kids an opportunity to see something or experience something they've never experienced before. Showing them a different way of doing things. I remember when I was a kid, I wasn't in foster care, but I experienced a lot of abuse, a lot of poverty and homelessness and stuff. And, I never saw my parents have a good conversation that didn't involve, throwing stuff and yelling at each other. And so the first time I saw it, man, that was like a huge thing. Like, well, these people are weird. They didn't yell when they had an argument. They just kind of talked it out. And now trying to be able to work with kids and show them things and experience things that are different than they've ever been a part of before, it's kind of cool. When you talk to them, when you sit down with them and you talk to them when they've done something wrong. I had a kid, he lived with us for the summer. The parents had enough of him because, he was being naughty and doing stuff and sneaking around and breaking things and getting in fights at school. So he came with us for the summer, and he was okay. We've had a little bit of problems with him. But one time he took my kid's scooter and threw it across the street after my son asked for it back because he didn't have permission to ride it. And he cussed him out and whatever. So I sat with him on my front porch, and I was like, hey, so what happened today? And he told me what happened, and I said, what do you think you should do next time? So we had a conversation, and then we just talked through it about, emotions, about, people's property, about, how to respond when you're caught with something you're not supposed to. And after we were done with our conversation, we left like 10 minutes. He's like, so that's it? You're not going to yell at me? I'm like, no. You're not going to ground me? No. You're not going to, he's just like, well, this can't be it. Well, pretty cool thing happened is we never had another issue with him ever again. Like that was the turning point for him, is the fact that he just thought he was going to get yelled at and do whatever he wants and get angry again. And he realized, I can just talk through things, and when I make a mistake, I can talk to him about it. I'm not going to get in trouble. So that's a huge joy.
So cool. So cool. Well, Frank, I really appreciate the work you and Teresa do and have done in the community there, and all the work that you've done with children in such a variety of ways. Do you have any parting words of wisdom that you would give with foster dads or would-be foster dads?
Yeah. Number one, embrace the mess. It gets hard, and life gets messy, and you might not be able to mow your lawn for 3 weeks because you're working with kids, and that's okay. And then the other thing I would say is, man, enjoy the journey. You're going to have these kids usually for just a little bit of time to make a huge impact in their life, to connect with them. And when they move on to another placing that's more permanent, or maybe back home, they'll have that good relationship with you so that when they're adult, they know who they can reach out to for a resource.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Fostering Bridges. We hope today's conversation gave you new insights, encouragement, and a reminder that you're not alone on this journey. If you found value in this episode, please share it with someone who might need it, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. Remember, building bridges in our families, our communities, and ourselves is a continuous journey. Until next time, take care and keep fostering those bridges.